If you've opened the Component 3 instructions, started reading through all the requirements, and thought, I don't even understand what they're asking me to show, you're definitely not alone. Component 3 can feel overwhelming because you're not just writing about your teaching. You're submitting actual video evidence of your teaching, and then you're expected to analyze what that video shows. So let's simplify what Component 3 is really asking you to do. At its core, Component 3 is asking one big question. Can you make intentional instructional decisions and analyze how those decisions impact your students? That's the lens I want you to use as you think about this component. Your video matters, your writing matters, but neither exist in isolation. You're building an argument about your teaching using evidence from what actually happened in the classroom. This is where candidates often get stuck. You're not trying to prove that you taught a perfect lesson. Your students don't have to sit quietly. Every activity doesn't have to work exactly as planned. And you don't need to create some elaborate showpiece lesson just because you're recording it. What matters is whether your video gives you meaningful evidence that you can analyze. So think of your video as evidence. The scorer needs to be able to see a connection between you, your students, and learning. What are you doing? How are students responding? And what does that interaction tell us about what's happening with student learning? The strongest video isn't necessarily the most exciting lesson. It's the video that gives you the most meaningful moments to analyze. When you're choosing your video clips, look for moments that give you something specific to talk about. Can we see students thinking? Can we see meaningful interactions? Can we see you responding to what your students are doing? Can we see instructional decisions happening in real time? You want moments where you can explain not just what happened, but why it mattered. Now, this is the part that candidates sometimes miss. Your video can only show what happened. Your commentary has to make your professional thinking visible. Don't just tell the scorer, I asked students questions and they were engaged. You need to explain why you chose those questions. Point to specific evidence of how students responded. Analyze what their responses revealed. Then explain how that information influenced or could influence your next instructional decision. That's the difference between simply describing your video and actually analyzing your teaching. Here's a simple example. Saying, I asked students questions throughout the lesson is description. You've told the scorer what happened, but not what it means. Instead, explain why you use that questioning strategy. Identify a specific student response. Explain what that response revealed about the student's thinking. Then connect that evidence back to your instructional decision. That is analysis. If you want a simple way to think about the entire component, just use this. Plan, teach, notice, analyze, adjust. You plan intentionally, you teach, you pay attention to what students actually do, you analyze what that evidence tells you, and you use that information to think about your next instructional decisions. That's really the heart of Component 3. One of the biggest mindset shifts you can make is to stop trying to use Component 3 to prove that you're a good teacher. Instead, use your evidence and commentary to show how you think as a teacher. Show the scorer that your decisions have a purpose, that you notice how students respond, and that you can analyze the impact of your practice. So, if you're starting Component 3 and you're thinking, what are they actually asking me to do? Just remember this. They're asking you to provide evidence of your teaching and make your professional thinking visible through your analysis. You don't need a perfect lesson. You do need meaningful evidence, and you need to explain what that evidence tells you about your teaching and your students. Once you understand that, Component 3 starts to make a whole lot more sense. And if you want help working through Component 3 step by step, I've linked my National Board resources below. Remember, precision matters.